We're with Queen Chudala. She and her husband, King Sikhidhvaja, were great lovers to the extent that they were reborn together from a previous lifetime. They had a wonderful romantic life, but then both realised the transient nature of things and turned their attentions to spiritual matters, to spiritual understanding. Queen Chudala realised the fruits of this understanding. She became self-realised. She practiced self-inquiry and realised the nature of self. Unfortunately, King Sikhidhvaja couldn't accept this. He couldn't accept that his wife had somehow reached the other side and he hadn't. His male ego seems to have got in the way, and he dismissed the beautiful expression of her realisation as prattle. So, not having much else to do, she went off and acquired supernormal powers, yogic supernormal powers. Vasishta continued, thus the Queen Chudala came to be endowed with all the psychic powers, like the ability to make oneself atomic and enormous. She traversed the sky and entered into the deepest oceans and roamed the earth, without ever leaving the company of her husband. She entered into every type of substance, wood, rock, mountain, grass, sky and water, without any hindrance. She moved with the celestials and with the liberated sages and conversed with them. Though she made every endeavour to enlighten her husband also, he was not only unresponsive, but he laughed at her foolishness. He remained ignorant. She felt it unwise to exhibit her psychic powers before him. We had a description of some of these psychic powers and how to achieve them in the previous chapters. But it seems that really they're all about some kind of astral projection. She was able to do all these things, fly through the air, visit heaven, talk with liberated sages, go into the bodies of inanimate objects and animate objects, probably, and other living beings. She did it all without leaving the company of her husband, which seems to imply she did it in an astral body or ethereal body. Rama asked, if even such a great Siddha yogini as Chudala could not bring about the spiritual awakening and the enlightenment of King Sikhidhvaja, how does one attain enlightenment at all? King Sikhidhvaja has this amazing possibility here. His own wife is enlightened. And he's looking for this as well. He's looking for the truth which his wife exhibits. But his own ignorance is so dense that he cannot accept the teaching from her. I suppose this is the old story of being the prophet in your own land. The prophet in his own land is never heard. I suppose it's like these videos I'm doing. I think most of the people that I know I'm doing it, but they're not going to express any more than a polite interest. Even those that are interested in spiritual understanding, not that I am enlightened or the font of truth. But my feeling is that these videos are going to be more appreciated by people that don't know me personally. I'm not sure if I should admit to all that. Vasishta said, the instruction of a disciple by a preceptor is but a tradition. The cause of enlightenment is but the purity of the disciple's consciousness. And this is an important point, especially I think if you're a Hindu. The relationship of guru and disciple is a traditional one in India. There are traditional attitudes with which the guru should be regarded. The guru should be regarded as God incarnate, an avatar, and respected as such. The idea being that somehow some kind of transmission at some point will be received from the guru. The guru's darshan is supposed to, by its very nature, be spiritually liberating or empowering. But this is a tradition. You're not going to get any transmission from anybody. It all depends on the purity of the disciple's consciousness. Not by hearing, nor by righteous acts is self-knowledge attained. In other words, the whole notion of spirituality and all the practices which are regarded as spiritual, doing good deeds, being in the company of sages, that's not going to get you there. Only the self knows the self. Only the snake knows its feet. Yet, and we've got a story here which should give us pause for thought. There was a wealthy villager in the Vindhya hills. Once when he was walking in the forest, he lost a copper coin, 1 cent. He was a miser, and so he began to search for it in the thick bush. All the time he was calculating, with that 1 cent I shall do some business. It will become 4 cents, and then 8 cents, and so on. For 3 days he searched, unmindful of the taunts of spectators. At the end of those 3 days he suddenly found a precious stone. It was a philosopher's stone, or a wish-fulfilling gem. Taking it with him, he returned home and lived happily. What was the cause of this miser's finding the philosopher's stone? Surely his miserliness and his searching the bush for the lost cent. Even so, in the case of the preceptor's instructions, the disciple looks for something but obtains something else. Brahman is beyond the mind and the senses. It cannot be known through someone else's instruction. Yet without the instruction of the preceptor, it is not known either. The miser would not have found the precious stone if he had not searched the bush for his 1 cent. Hence the instruction of the preceptor is considered the cause of self-knowledge, and yet it is not the cause. Look at this mystery of Maya, O Rama. One seeks something and obtains something else. So the idea, even if you're embarking on a foolish quest, that you might eventually find the truth. Okay, that's a fair enough story, but there's one flaw in it. And the flaw is in the looking. Spiritual truth is not something that you find when you're looking for something else. Spiritual truth is found when you go in the opposite direction to looking. The argument that you should be pursuing notions and that somehow in pursuing notions you'll find the right notion, that's what this is saying, and it's not very accurate. I don't think this story is quite on the ball. Spiritual truth is not something that you find instead of something else. If you're caught up in the search for supernormal powers, for example, that's not going to lead to truth. And if it does, you're fortunate. Truth is stumbled upon ultimately, and you can stumble upon it at any time, no matter what you're doing. The trouble with having a spiritual preceptor, I think that makes it even harder. It makes it harder, unless that spiritual preceptor is actually realized himself. If he's not, then there's less chance that you're going to stumble on the truth, because you believe that you're getting the truth already. You believe that the truth can be expressed in notions, and it's just about holding on to the right notions. That understanding has to be completely subverted.